Right.
and it sounded good. Did not get involved last year, just time wise and everything. It was a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it now. So
Well, great. We're glad that you kept us on your radar. I just hit the live button, so we are recording. So we're now just be careful about what you say, Penn. It's going to be on the internet. Ariel has totally embarrassed herself in previous Hangouts. I keep telling her, Ariel, this is permanent. You can't totally be yourself. You've got to be a sort of a jokes. So yeah, well, thank you for coming to our Hangout, Pen. I really appreciate it. This is supposed to be a planning session, and as I was telling you earlier, I think I got a little schedule happy with the Doodle this week and scheduled 4 Hangouts in 4 days. So we're a little thin on the attendance today, but that's okay because we have what it takes to get this planning done. But essentially, what we're trying to do. Did you go to the session that we did, the Measuring Outcomes 101 session, Penn?
I did. I came in a little late to it, but I did see it. It was Ariella that did it, right? Wasn't she one of the
Ariella
ones?
did. Maybe you went to Ariella and Amanda's. They did Youth Outcomes Battery. What'd you do? Lessons from Youth Outcomes Battery?
No, I think Penn's talking about you weren't at the most recent conference, Penn. You were at the conference a year ago,
No,
right?
I came to
Oh,
Georgia. Yeah.
to Atlanta. Okay. Well, yeah. So then maybe to the 101 or to the one that Amanda and I did in the weird room with the angled windows.
I think it was the weird angled windows one.
Yeah, I remember you. So
Well, we did a session called Measuring Outcomes 101, and so as we were thinking about doing that, it occurred to us that we could also do a mini series where we lead people through how to get started. And I think that the foundation for this is that um, this measuring outcomes thing is so foreign to us because most of us don't have a background in research, and so just even getting off the ground is intimidating, even if you have instruction. So it almost seemed like, if you put people on a hangout and guide them through the steps, maybe that might be easier. So my idea is to set up 3 or maybe 4 in the spring, and then 2 or 3 in the fall, and have 4 or 5 novice camps together with an experienced camp and a researcher and maybe Deb Beleshki or somebody else from the ACA or something like that, and then essentially having everybody, all the novice camps are in the same boat, and just leading them through the process. Um, so that was my idea. I think that there's not a lot more, not like it's more the process, I think, that is important. The thinking about it. Then I don't think there's like content or a lecture or any sort of special insight. It's more like walking people through the stuff. And Penn, when you said that you were jumping on here, I thought, well, this is going to be great because we can ask somebody who is. You guys are not measuring outcomes, I gather.
We just last year we purchased the YOB, and we've
Okay.
started with the YOB 2.0. Just like yesterday, I got online with it. So our plan is we actually have a spring program where we're going
Oh,
to
great.
actually dive right into it.
Oh,
So
great. Okay, so I guess, Ariel, what do you think of my proposal here? What is there anything that doesn't work?
well, I think the piece of looking at your kind of going back and looking at what you did, Matt, with the measurement 101. I think that was a really good outline of what people kind of need to do. But I guess my question for Penn is, like, is it one of those things where now that you have kind of been exposed to it, to the YOB and to that process, do you just want to do it? I mean, I guess I'm an experiential learner, and that's been my YOB process, which has been like, let's just try it and see what happens. Um, but I also know that, one of the things that Matt talked about in the Measuring Outcomes 101 is that people are, camp people, they like to know exactly what it is they're doing because we like to do things well. And so we don't typically people don't go do things half cocked. They just, like to have them fairly well laid out, especially, environments where we do have to kind of answer for the time that we've invested in certain projects. And so what in your mind, what is your process going to be with this? I'm just curious, like, how do you see this going?
Sure. I kind of said this a little bit with Matt previously via email, but my goal is to jump right in, and I'm going to jump in as far as doing research, but also I want to just absorb everything I possibly can. So therefore, um, having sessions like that I think would be very helpful. Even if I start the process, having people talk about it and talk about the way that they did it, the way you did it, Matt. I know he mentioned last year that there were successes and failures like when you first started, things you didn't realize, and it took a little while to get off the ground. I'd like to learn from those so I don't make the same mistakes.
Right.
So that's kind of my view of it. I'm one of those people that jumps right in and starts making my mistakes on my own. I'd like to then learn from other people. Hey, we did this, we did that, or this is a really good practice, or etc. So we're going to focus on YOB. We do some other measurements, outcome measurements, because we're an agency.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit different. So I really would like to learn a little bit more, not necessarily about YOB, but about the research process.
So you think that you might, are you saying, Penn, that you think you would might attend sessions in the Getting Off the Ground mini-series, even though you might already know your why or know your what, that it might be interesting to you just to sort of hear other people talk about their stuff?
Absolutely. I think, and of course, this is my theory in general, like going to ACA, that's all about, I may know, certain things, but learning more about it, or learning how somebody else does something, or learning how they came by their why or their what or whatever, sometimes helps you really rethink what you're doing and evaluate where you're at. So that's my theory.
That's interesting. That's great. I love that, and I think that's cool. And you would be you'd be welcome, of course. I think that what I would do, I guess you probably what we should do is set up what we think is going to happen, and then sort of be willing to do whatever the novice camps want. I mean, the novice camps may be like, let's skip the next session. Everyone's like, yeah, skip the next session. I want to jump to the third one or whatever. And so I guess we should sort of propose what we think is going to happen, and then let them guide the process. And I think what I would do is just for their homework, I would say, okay, we're meeting on whatever March 10th or something like that, and the two questions that you have to have consider, and maybe you're not going to have answers by the Hangout. But the two questions you have to consider are, why do I want to measure outcomes, and what are the obstacles that I face? So everybody comes to the Hangout with sort of a thought of, why do I want to measure outcomes and what obstacles do I face? And if, let's say there's 4 folks on the, because I think we have 4 people signed up for the first cohort or whatever. Some people are going to have a pretty good idea of the why, and some people are going to really be struggling with it, or their obstacles seem insurmountable or something like that. And so then some of the Hangout will be just sort of listening to the people who feel confident, and then another part will be sort of processing or troubleshooting with the people who are less confident.
Yeah, and I think if you wanted to, you could even have people share that in a document form in advance. So people could actually say, why they think they want to measure outcomes, as well as what they feel like those obstacles are. So then that can be there can be a little bit of a shape to the conversation, so it's not, so it doesn't get derailed in the time frame, but so everybody kind of has, so you can kind of build, because some people's obstacles will be similar, and some of them will also potentially open, create even more questions for other people. So I just wonder if, being able to say, if you have a second, shoot me your thoughts around these two questions
How
before
much
that.
how much information? You mean like you talking about a paragraph or
Well, no,
a
I'm
sentence
saying,
or two?
no, I'm saying, okay, so your why, you know, our donors want to, or our camp parents are interested in what we're doing with
Yeah.
youth outcomes, and my obstacles are that we don't have someone to enter the data, or, you know, something like that, and then we can go from there. I don't know, or just be able to brainstorm ideas on the fly for that, or
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
resources
So
available.
and they would send it to like to me or whatever. It wouldn't be for the only thing I'm just is
I
that
know.
it is hard to get people to do stuff. And so if you ask them to show up for half an hour, yeah, maybe they could send it if they want, and if they don't want to send it, that's fine. I guess I'm trying to figure out what the structure of the conversation would look like.
Well, Penn, like, what right now, if, why are you doing it, and what obstacles do you think you might be facing?
Sure. So for us, there's a couple of reasons to do it. One is to be able to better show our outcomes and how we actually are doing in meeting those outcomes. But two is to really to really understand that we are doing it, or where we might be able to do it better, or things like that. So I want to do it for outside parties, but also for ourselves, so we can better improve our programs. So that's my why. It's kind of twofold there. The things that could be obstacles for us is one, trying to fit it to our schedule.
You have the
Getting
kids for such a short period of time.
right. So we do primarily a day camp that's week long. So we've got to fit it in there, to show outcomes for a week. Um, and then also data entry. Now with the YOB 2.0, that may not be as big of an issue, but those would be the two things that I would be facing that I can think of right off the top of my head. Is getting it into the schedule, and we've already started talking about that because for us it's been like a 2-year kind of ramping up phase. Um, but those would be the obstacles I would face, and I would want to find out how, say other people do
Right.
that, and how you've kind of hit those obstacles yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. I think how do you think that it makes sense? Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure how long it would take. I mean, that took for you to do that. That took maybe just 3 minutes or something like that, 4 minutes to say that. And I guess I'm wondering if what we're scheduling is going to be too short. If the questions are, the first one is like, why do you want to measure outcomes, or what obstacles do you face? And then the second one would be, what outcomes do you want to measure? And then the third one would be, or maybe what outcomes do you want to measure and what instrument are you going to use? And then the third one could be prepping for your delivery or something like that. Those three. I wonder if do you think there's enough meat in there to fill a hangout, or should we compress it and try to fit more into a hangout? I'm not very good at judging the time on this.
Well, I think, there's always the opportunity in a Hangout environment to then, if you don't get there, to revisit it. Um, the other one I would add, maybe, Matt, would be the pitfall concept. So, like, and it's not the obstacles you face. It's actually the pitfalls. It's like
Yeah.
bias. It's the stuff that you find out. It's kind of the stuff that Penn is interested in. Don't do this crap the first year kinds of things. It's more of it's the, you know, think about who's administering these pieces. And I think that one is that one can be even more research based, because then that's something that we as camp directors, we don't think about. the inclusion of bias, or
No.
what sort of environments we should consider for testing, and really, and in the big picture, we're still just going to use whatever we can, and we are still going to have some pitfalls, with the idea that it's okay if it's not perfect. We're going to just be improving every single time. Does that make sense? So, like, I feel like that would be one of the last ones, or
Yeah,
part
I
of the
think
last one.
yeah, common mistake. I mean, mistakes that we
Yeah,
made, or
common
mistakes
mistake.
that we make in the beginning.
Common mistake.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
And so, Penn, you had said something about the research process. Like, what is that for you? Like, when you think about the research process and you brought it up, like, what is the research process?
I'm not sure what I said that I said
I
research
don't either.
process, but
Process and underlined it with a question mark.
okay. So for us, you know, obviously we're going to have surveys that we're going to send out, and then after that, you know, collecting the data, putting it in, and then looking at it. This is what I want to do is be able to look at it and determine here's how we are doing to meet these particular outcomes, whether it's independence or whatever the case is, how that looks, and then measure it over a period of time. So for me, I'm not a statistician. I'm not, you know, into research in any way, but I want to be able to look at data and say, oh, we do show improvement here, but maybe in this group it's not as great as it is over here, and why is that? And so then we start looking at that. Now I know data is not going to tell us why, but it allows us to then turn around and try to do talk about it and determine that on our own, like not necessarily why, but what we're going to do about it. So for me, I mean, I guess that's what I'm thinking of when I say the research process is like collecting the data, entering the data, looking at the results, and then the follow through on that, like what we're going to do after that, and then doing it again.
Right, which I think is the really cool thing about how camps are approaching this whole research process, because in everybody, like all of us as directors, I think that's a big piece of this, Matt, that I want to capitalize on, is this whole idea that, in the community of practice, we are creating an environment where we can talk about program improvement. And because really that would be the coolest thing if we could get on board with this. Like, I mean, big picture goal, being able to find friends who you can say, my staff training sucks.
Right.
Like, what can we, what do you do that helps or that influences your responsibility numbers, or have you done anything? Or if you already have like super high, teamwork things, what do you do at camp? Like, being able to be transparent enough with our results to say, hey, we didn't do this well, or we thought we did it really well, and and I think that's the part of this that's exciting to me, and I know we have to get people there, but I just wonder if there's, if and it's not part of getting off the ground, and so I'm digressing.
Well, I mean,
But
it is. I mean, maybe you're talking about the conversations to really make sure that that they jump on the calls in October, November to talk through the analysis piece.
right, 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 and so I guess so. The first two getting off the grounds really come down to what you said. What were your first two? What did you say you
First
were?
one, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing this out here, but the first one would be, why do you want to do why do you want to do this? What are you hoping to get out of it? I mean, like for us, I want I wanted it to say that Longacre is the best camp in the country. That's what I was sort of hoping for. I ended up being disappointed, but that's honestly. And number two, was what obstacles do you face? Because I think that if you're not aware of those from the get-go, they're gonna impede your process. And so if those are the first two, and then the second two would be, what outcomes do I want to measure, and what tool am I going to use? And I think many people are going to use Youth Outcomes Battery, and Youth Outcomes Battery is a fantastic default if you don't have another tool in mind, unless your outcome is something like creativity that YOB doesn't do.
Right.
and then the third would just be sort of prepping for the summer. But that, I mean, if you do, one in March and one in April and one in May or something like that, that seems like a pretty doable thing. I think the problem is that once you get it, it doesn't seem that complicated. But I really, I'm only 2-3 years away from this, from not knowing what I was doing. So I remember looking at it and it being totally opaque and having no idea what I was going to do or how it was going to work. So I just think that walking people through it is going to be appreciated.
Well, and I also think I really liked what you did in the 101s in the measurement 101. And so if there'd be a way to distill that,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, but that's okay, but that's us talking. I mean, like, mm, don't you think they would rather talk? Penn, you would rather talk than be
no,
talked to.
nope, I'm not saying that you talk about it. I say that you that's part of the deal. Like that's your, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Put it
Yeah,
over here in the group chat and like,
right.
it's like an outline almost.
Yeah, cool.
Kind of help guide just so everybody's keeping all those pieces in mind. Um, and I guess that was what I was thinking for the whole series. Like that would be kind of our framework was your timeline that you created for that.
Well, I mean, it was Amanda and Lori and all of us. So.
Okay. You're the typer.
All right. Yeah, I was a typer. I love the PowerPoint. Me and PowerPoint. I'm like, can't get enough.
I'm surprised you don't do something else that like is in 3D and like jumps out and dances around.
Yeah, maybe maybe you need to
So
educate me.
techy.
I don't know. I don't know how to do the jumping out, and especially don't know how to do that dancing.
Then what's your role? Like what's your big job? What's the big job?
Camp director here, so kind of
So,
in the same boat.
okay. And so what's your age and your population and you're there for a week and do you have the same kids all summer long sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes we do. At first, I thought you were asking my age. I thought, oh, that's weird. No, we have kids from 5 to 18, 17 really. Day camp primarily in the Oklahoma City area, and then we do some resident camp. We're expanding that program.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
And we have kids from everywhere because our agency is like an all-inclusive organization. So we have at-risk, we have special needs, we have just a wide variety.
And so are they in that? Do you have like specialized camps for those, or is it just a big mix?
Both. We do a lot of inclusion, but then we also have 1 week that's a camp for children with autism that we do at the very beginning of the season. That's a kind of a one-on-one ratio, and then we go into our regular camp season from there.
Wow, so you have an opportunity to do a lot of things, to do a lot of comparative pieces,
Yeah.
and that YOB be able to like play out different, not necessarily populations, but different camps, and
We do, and then in the fall and spring we do different programs. We have a CSI camp, and then we do youth leadership programs that happen just throughout the year and that kind of thing. So.
What's a CSI camp?
It's a camp. We have a mock crime scene.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
kid friendly, of course.
Yes.
And then they get to learn about fingerprinting and DNA, and we put up markers and they walk through the crime scene and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
How cool is that? Do you work with did you set it up with like a forensic scientist or something like that, or is it?
No, we did our own research to try to find all the activities, and we do chromatography and various things. But it's a lot of fun. So kids enjoy it.
Wow, very cool. Well, Matt, I think you did it.
Yeah, well,
I think we've done it. We have a plan. Everything's set.
We did the process. We are practicing our community. I don't know what the verb is of community of practice, but we're doing it.
We're practicing.
We're practicing. We're practicing. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to stop broadcast. And